What's up, guys? It's John Dominique, the Soul Proponent. Today I want to talk about the Atheist Agenda and how it doesn't work. I run into a lot of atheists or people who say there is no God on these forums that I visit, that I frequent, on these websites, and they claim that they're correct in their viewpoint that there is no God, and I want to propose alternatives, I guess is what I want to say. For instance, I get a lot of pushback, a lot of feedback that these atheists are like, when you ask them, either the universe came from nothing or the universe is eternal. It's one or the other. And their answer is like, they don't know. So they're right in the middle. Now, if you were taking a test at a school or something like that, and you had two choices, true or false, this is logic. There's no middle ground. There's no, oh, I don't know. That's not an answer. They pretend, when they say I don't know, that that's an answer, when it's not an answer. Instead of opening to the possibility that their idea of time and the Big Bang doesn't exist because there's no such thing as time, they'd rather skimp that because it would challenge their beliefs too much. They'd have to reformulate their thinking. When you ask them if something comes from nothing, there's no examples of that ever happening. So, logically speaking, that's not an answer. But if you give them some proposals, such as the idea that time does not exist, oh, that can't be the truth. But the truth is, time is just a concept. And concepts are just thoughts, they're ideas. And ideas don't exist in objective reality, they're subjective. So when you think about it, a lot of atheists think they can think their way through it on a mental level when it's actually experiential to actually feel in its entirety the truth that there's no such thing as time. To actually have an experiential experience of that is much different than admitting it in your head, in your mind, in your mental. A lot of atheists are too proud to do that. And I can understand that. I was like that at once too. I didn't know at one time. These ideas that we hold on to, that we cherish so dearly, we're very attached to them. Time is one of the biggest factors. We need to have time in order to survive. The identity, the ego, to have its memory, it needs time. It needs to recollect something that was in the past, and then it keeps adding more layers on top of what happened previously. So it's an accumulation. And, we can stop using time maybe for a minute or two, but if you were to go all the way back to your whole history from the beginning and see that there is no beginning because there's no time, that would kind of disrupt the whole structure of this identity of who we think we are, this identity of ego personality. And it's a huge challenge. People won't know how to act without this identity. They don't think they'll survive. So the cost is too great for them to even consider it. And people don't want to consider it, honestly. They'd rather just say, oh, yeah, Big Bang and the beginning of our universe happened with the Big Bang, but they don't ever fully consider the fact that there's no such thing as time. There's no proof, no evidence for time. Now, they say time is based on objective physical objects, and that's true. The rate of change and duration, if we collectively agree that how long this takes is 1 second or 1 minute or 1 day, then that's objectively true. It's based on physical objects. But that doesn't mean that the concept of time is real. It's just a concept. It's an idea. And ideas only exist in our heads. Where else do the concepts exist? Nowhere but inside our minds. They're subjective. Now, I'm not saying that we don't have a subjective experience of time, because we do. Same thing with ideas like courage and human rights intelligence. These were things that are subjective, but we don't take that into consideration because there's very little information on how to take that into our investigation. Now, investigating to see if God is real, we have to include the subjectivity that we bring into the objectivity. We want to be objective. We think that there's objective answers, and that's kind of true. The facts are important. I'm not saying the facts are not important, but the facts are not the same thing as the truth. The truth that I'm talking about is the truth that sets us free. So it sets us free from the value that we give to the facts, the value that we think we can get from the facts. And we're attached to that value because we're attached to attachment itself. And if we were to loosen our attachments to what we think is valuable, we don't think anything will be left. We think there'll just be nothing and there'll be emptiness. And that's true. That's what we'll face. But that's the beginning. That's the realization, the beginning stages of our awakening. We have to face the emptiness in its entirety because that's what's going to be left. Nothing. That's kind of the point. We have to go, what's the word I want to say? We have to regress all the way back to the nothingness. And that's the beginning of our awakening. And I don't know, these atheists, they don't want to hear any of that. They just want to continue to believe that, there is no God, and then you give them, you say you don't have evidence. Okay, well, there's a way to experience the evidence, and you can't get the evidence because the evidence gets you. It's the other way around. It's like the opposite of what they're trying to do, the direct antagonist. And it's very, I guess we have our habits, our propensities, our tendencies are against spiritual awakening and the path to spiritual awakening because we're so used to the common ways of the way the ego works with its memory and its time and its beliefs, its systems. Like, we need to have these systems in place for society to function, and that's fine. But the problem is we're identified, we're attached, we can't open up to any other possibilities. We think we can think our way through the whole thing, keep it on a mental level, don't want to actually experientially understand this idea that there's no time, and to experience timelessness and experience unity, to experience oneness, like all these ideas and being and essence, like these are just ideas like people just talk about, but to actually experience them is a whole nother level of dimensions of experience that we're not aware of. So my job, I'm here to challenge atheists, to let them know, hey, I had an experience and you can experience it too. There's a way to go about it. And the way to go about it is by figuring out how not to go about it. It's counterintuitive, upside down, backwards. It's totally disorienting, and it's terrorizing. And that's why nobody wants to go near it. This is John Dominique, the Soul Proponent. My channel is about presenting these ideas to people on an introductory level, just as an introduction, they can get a taste of what I'm trying to say. And I've been doing this for years. I have an agenda. I've been called to stand up and speak about my awakening for the benefit of other people on this earth. And I'm not going to sit here and promote it and advertise it. This is like, it's by law of attraction that people will come here and listen to what I have to say. And very few people will listen, and that's fine. It's not my job to make everybody listen. This is for people who are genuinely on the path, that really want to look, that really want to know. And I'd rather have a few quality people that actually I interact with than all these people, these atheists that just come around and just want to argue, and their attitude is more argumentative and more about the debate. It's more important to debate than it's actually important to see the truth. And that's where we have a problem, because fundamentally the truth is the most important thing. It can't be more important to debate than to find the truth. And that's an issue with a lot of these atheists. And we have to see this agenda. Their agenda is always at the forefront. They want to use pressure. They want to use bullying tactics. They're very proud of what they think they know, and they think that's it, and only getting part of the truth. They'll only get partial truth. The atheist agenda, you can't get the entire truth because they've got their own set of attachments. Now, I'm not saying that the other side is perfect. The religious folks, a lot of them are very attached as well. We all have our issues that we have to work through in order to have spiritual awakening. These attachments are not going to do it. The practice is the practice of non-attachment, and then applying the practice of non-attachment towards the practice of non-attachment, and continuing always to do that. It's a lifelong endeavor that has to be forefront in our minds at all the time. You can't just do it a couple of times here. Now, granted, when we first started and hear it, we're probably not going to have the memory or the capacity to stay on a path of non-attachment and then non-attachment and more non-attachment, because when we first start off, it's not gonna you're not gonna be good at it. It's just like practicing an instrument or learning a new sport or something. You're not going to be very good at it at the beginning. So we have to be patient, and we have to allow ourselves not to be good, and to know that the progress is going to happen on its own. We don't have any control over it. Just allow it to happen. So we have to be very considerate to ourselves, very compassionate, and not look for the results. The results will happen on their own. If we're looking for results, it's not going to work because there's more attachment. We just keep practicing and allow things to unfold on their own, even when we don't think anything's happening. Just continuing to practice. So I'm here to address, a lot of these ideas, these atheists that bring up, they think that they can get around answering the question, is the universe eternal or did something come from nothing? They say, I don't know. Their logic, all of a sudden, their logic fails them. They don't know how to use logic anymore. All of a sudden, to answer the question, it's either A or B, yes or no. And then they start, I'm going to just go right in the middle, I don't know. That's not logic. All of a sudden, you can't do simple math, simple logic. It's one or the other. So, I don't know. These atheists kind of trigger my anxiety sometimes because I kind of almost think ahead of them and already know what they're going to say. And I come into a lot of new ones all the time, and these new people, it becomes combative. And I'm not here to combat. I'm here to say, hey, man, I have an idea. If you want more information, I can talk to you about it and present it to you, but don't come at me with an attitude of trying to bully me and say you're wrong and not be open in that attitude. The atheist agenda, that attitude is not going to work. That's not, and you can see for yourself. It's easy. Just observe for yourself in your own experience. Has the attitude of trying to find the answers through science. That doesn't work. You tried it. We've been doing it for thousands of years and never got any closer to any answers. There's got to be something else, some other way to do it. There's a way to go about it. It's not it. The atheist way, the atheist agenda, is not it. That's all I'm here to say. Like my video, subscribe, let other people know what I'm saying. I need to kind of spread this word. So I appreciate any feedback, any comments, suggestions. Subscribe to my video. John Dominique, the Soul Proponent.